Hey, what is happening? YouTube Rules for Rebels here. This week we are doing the Millionaire FastLane book club. We're going to be covering part 6, week 6, chapters 22 through 28. And this was by far my favorite part of the book, my favorite section of chapters of the book. And the reason was because it really tied into my own life and my own entrepreneurial journey. And a lot of the things that he says led to his success are things that I attribute to my success I've had thus far. So I could really relate to this chapter. I think I have some great ways to kind of tie this into my life and maybe illustrate these points better for you guys. So again, we're going to be doing this like we have before in 2 parts. The first part is going to be kind of my bullet points of what I liked most about this chapter, some stories that tie into my life, etc. And then the second part is going to be the whole entire chapter summary. So those of you guys who are reading along, if you want to hang out for part 2, you can, but you don't need to hear me go part through part through part through the entire section of the book. You guys can just hang on for my bullet points. Those of you guys who aren't reading the book but are following along with the book club, feel free to watch the whole video here. So I apologize for not getting this out Monday, guys. I tried to be cute this week and separate my audio from my video, and I couldn't get my audio file into Windows Movie Maker or Filmora, so it took me a little bit longer. I had to do this in the evening and didn't get a chance to post it yesterday. So here's kind of my bullet points for this section. Chapter 22 touches on the formation of a business. MJ gives, and this part I found kind of boring. MJ gives us a little insight into the types of businesses formations available to us. C Corp, LLC, and S Corp. He advises us not to be a sole proper or partnership, as you have none of the tax benefits or the protection benefits in those types of business formations. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I'll tell you guys how my business is set up. We're set up as an LLC. However, a law within the past couple of years allows us to elect to be taxed as an S Corp. That means we get the simplicity and the protection of an LLC, but the tax advantages of an S Corp or a C Corp. And in that way, we can pay ourselves what the IRS says a quote-unquote reasonable salary, which is subject to higher tax rates and payroll taxes. But then we can take the rest of our money out in dividends, which are not subject to payroll taxes and which is taxed at a lower rate. And I know a lot of you guys asked me questions about business formation. That kind of gave you an outline, didn't go into a lot of detail. So, I mean, if anybody wants to chime in the comment section below, how your business is set up, maybe you're an accountant or I don't know, tax attorney or something like that. Maybe you can chime in more on that. I'm not really going to touch on it just because that's not my area of expertise, but I figured I would share with you guys how my business is formed. This chapter touches on the mindset. We are the sum of our attitudes and our choices. And this reminds me of 2 quotes I heard a lot growing up from my dad and my grandpa, as well as from a great uncle of mine. So one is from my father and my grandfather, who always said, if you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. I always thought it was kind of cheesy or cliche when they used to tell me this, but this is so true. This is basically a spin on Henry Ford's famous saying. I forget exactly how his quote goes, but it's basically the same thing with a little bit of a different wording. But I think that's so true. Before I really got into online marketing and e-commerce and making money online, I thought, oh man, I know all these people show these $100,000 AdSense checks and things like that, but I'm never going to get these results. It's not going to happen. This is too hard. People don't really make money online. And that's something I hear from a lot of people starting out who are frustrated. But really, like, once you actually start making some money, it could start with 50 cents a day. It grows to $3 a day. Slowly over time, you start gaining confidence and kind of changing how you view things. And now that I'm involved in so many different things, it's like there is money all over the place for the taking. You just have to have some ideas and take action. The other comment I got is from a great uncle of mine who, really amazing guy, grew up in Chicago during the Depression, had to leave school to support his family. He wound up becoming a priest and later a bishop and lived in the Amazon rainforest literally for the rest of his life for like 60 some plus years. But every summer he'd come back for 3 or 4 months, living on the south side of the city. And was a priest at some parish out there. Really lived an amazing life, awesome guy. And he would always ask me if you've done something or if you've been somewhere. Hey, Johnny, you ever been to Brazil? I'd say no. And he would always tell me, don't say no, say not yet. And again, sounds cheesy, sounds cliche, but as MJ DeMarco said, you're basically setting yourself up for success mentally. So by saying not that did you do something? Have you done this? No. You're setting yourself up for you're never going to do it. Whereas if you say not yet, it's something I'm going to do, but I haven't done it yet. And I kind of liken that to how MJ DeMarco talks about the kid who asked to take a picture of his car and said, I need to get a lot of pictures of this because I'm never going to own one of my own. I'm never going to own one of these cars on my own. And that kid basically had already set himself up on a mental block that's going to assure failure unless he gets past that mental block. Because if you believe you can have a Lamborghini, there's a chance you can. I'm not going to say you're gonna, but there's a chance you can. If you don't believe you'll ever have a Lamborghini, there is no chance you can. Choices. I like how he touched on choices. If you're unhappy with where you are, it's the choices you've been making that got you there. If you want or expect different results, you're going to need to make different choices. If you need a change of environment or some other type of change, make that change. MJ talks about how he knew he was more effective in a sunnier climate because he had, seasonal depression disorder, whatever that is. So what did he do? He moved to Arizona. What choices are you making right now that aren't getting you the results that you want? You should really try to make a change today. Let's see. Next, you control your attitude and your path. There's a great Colin Powell quote to the effect of extreme positivity and optimism is a force multiplier. I'm probably butchering the quote, but having a positive attitude and being enthusiastic about business, learning, life is what successful people do. You may have to fake it at first and act as if, or better yet, act until you become. And this kind of reminds me of that Amy Cuddy TED Talks. I did a video a while back about power moves. Feel free to search it on my channel. But basically, she talks about how our body and our mind kind of shape our path. So if you smile, it makes you happier. I mean, that's a fact. So if you fake a smile for long enough, it's going to make you happy. So basically, by kind of changing your attitude, it's going to make you more successful. And I try to practice this in my own life. My girlfriend gets kind of annoyed, but sometimes we wake up and she's like, I don't want to go to work today. It's rainy today. And, I'm being kind of stupid. I'm kind of faking it until I make it, but I'll be like, I am super enthusiastic. Like, I'm going to go tackle the day. It's raining, but it's going to water the plants, and basically just try to put like a positive spin on everything. And it's amazing. It really will kind of transform your life, that whole idea. One other thing, I forgot to write this in here, but one thing I wanted to touch about path is MJ DeMarco talks about how after he got out of college, a lot of his friends went and got cushy, 50 grand a year jobs, basically doing what the masses do. And if you do what the masses do, that's going to lead to mediocrity. Now, is there anything wrong with, having an average career and whatever else? Not if that's what you want out of life, but if you want more out of life, you can't follow the path of the masses or you're going to have, mediocre results. So MJ DeMarco talks about how, had he taken a corporate job, he probably wouldn't have had the energy, the time, the drive to, start businesses and things like that. But because he took a job as a limo driver, it left him a lot of time and a lot of energy to do other things. And I can kind of tie that into my own life. After college, I took an internship with a startup company, really enjoyed it, but the economy took a downturn in, '08, '09, whatever that was. Didn't wind up getting hired on. I wound up leaving and getting a job at Orbitz, the travel company. Really good job, like 60 grand a year, probably another 10 to 15 I could have made in bonuses and things like that. But I just knew I wasn't happy doing it. And I'll tell this story in more depth another time. But it was my third day of work. I'm sitting in a meeting with all these higher ups at Orbitz, and I raise my hand and I just say, I can't do this. And everybody looked at me like I was kind of crazy. Like, can't do what? What are you trying to do? And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't work here. And I think they were just about to give me a BlackBerry. I mean, every second of my day I had to track. Like, I think you probably wasted more time tracking and accounting for what you did throughout your day than you actually did work. And then they wanted to give me a BlackBerry so that they could bother me on nights and weekends because, God forbid the Kung Fu Panda ad campaign goes down and it doesn't get up for 3 more hours. And I just knew, I said, this isn't the life for me. And I really didn't have anything entrepreneurial going on at the time. I mean, I maybe dabbled a bit in blogging and online marketing, but was making like literally no money. So I left this, to what a lot of people would have seen as a great job and a great future, and walked out and took the train home, kind of depressed that I was now unemployed and I was kind of a screw up and kind of immature. And why did I go to college for this life that I really didn't want? And that kind of, the pain of that experience kind of led me to drive really hard and get some entrepreneurial things off the ground. And I wound up taking kind of I don't want to say a bullshit job, but definitely not like a career serious type job. And well, a lot of people might have thought like, oh, I'm on this career path making 50 grand a year, and Johnny's, working this, not minimum wage, but working this lower level job that's really not going to lead anywhere. But what I did, the job that I had offered me a lot of free time. And because of that, I spent a lot of time reading, educating myself, blogging, making YouTube videos. And that's kind of what first got me started. All that free time or downtime that I had at my job, I was using to start businesses and do entrepreneurial things and teach myself new skills. And I think if I had been in some stuffy corporate job where I'm exhausted at the end of the day and I have to take work home and do that work at home, I would have never gotten anything of these things off the ground. But because I had kind of a blow off job, it didn't require a lot of my mental energy. There was really no work to take home. So I was able to put all that extra energy and everything into starting businesses and thinking about ideas and educating myself and blogging. And hey, sorry, guys, got a comment there at the door. Got interrupted for a second. But yeah, basically, I mean, had I've been working some corporate job, I would have never gotten any of these things off the ground. And it took a couple years. I worked at that job for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. But all the while, I was using all my free time there to educate myself and get things going. And then when I got home at night, because I didn't have a really mentally stressful job, I still had energy and drive to get something else going. So I really, really attribute that to my success. And I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast a lot, and he talks about this a little bit. And he says that basically he kind of attributes his success in comedy to the same thing. He said, all the jobs that I took, yeah, I think he called them dirtbag jobs. Personally, I don't think there's a dirtbag job. If you get up and go to work and work hard and support yourself, I think that's admirable. So I don't think there's anything as a quote unquote dirtbag job. But basically, his point was with these lower level jobs he was taking, nobody expects anything of you. So, whereas if you take a higher level corporate career type job, they almost feel like they own your life. I think a lot of times you're not allowed to have a second job or a part time job. They want you to be able to come in on a weekend or do some work outside of work. So if you have a corporate job, they basically own your life. You're probably not going to be able to get something off the ground. Whereas if you take some part-time job, some minimum wage job, some job where not a lot is expected of you, then you actually have more control over your own life to get something else going. So that's one point that I left out of this little write-up that I wanted to touch on. Another thing he says, success is not a single choice, but hundreds or thousands of choices you make every day. So working on your blog or e-commerce store, instead of going out with your buddies, teaching yourself a new skill by reading blogs, watching YouTube videos instead of watching The Bachelor. Those are the choices that you're making day in and day out that are going to, either put you on the sidewalk or the slow lane or the fast lane. Let's see. Next, while this isn't mentioned in the book, it's a fact that over 40% of your day is nothing but routine. It's things you do just because it's your routine. Start slowly introducing new habits and behaviors into your schedule. Start forming different and positive routines, and these things will begin to happen on autopilot. Another point, which I hear a lot from another guy like Dan Pena, watch who you spend your time with. Many, if not most, high performance people, self-help coaches, successful people all echo the idea that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We've all heard the phrase, if you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. You've heard that whole thing. If you're spending your time with people who fart around in sports bars after work, as Dan Pena would say, that is what your trajectory is going to be. Get toxic people out of your life, get people not in line with your goals out of your life, and get positive people in it. So how do you do that? You're like, okay, well, I got all my friends from high school or college. Like, how do I meet positive people or high performance people? Go to the website meetups.com, join some entrepreneur or business meetups, connect with people via online forums, put an ad on Craigslist that you're looking to connect with other entrepreneurs, get yourself a new circle of friends. And we had talked about trajectory, so that leads us to my next point. Trajectory is mentioned in the book. MJ DeMarco gives the example of when you hit a golf ball head on, it goes straight, right? However, if your angle of your club is off even 1 degree or 1 millimeter at contact, even though it's only off a small amount during contact, the trajectory of the ball by the time it makes it a few hundred yards could be 50, 100, 200 yards off course. So basically, this just kind of illustrates how making small changes in your behaviors and habits today, even very, very small changes, can have a huge effect on your trajectory 6 months, a year, or 5 years down the road. So, I mean, obviously, the bigger changes you make, the bigger change in trajectory you're going to get. But what I mean by that is basically, let's say, you normally get home from work, you eat dinner, and you sit in front of the TV until you go to bed. What if you took even 20 minutes out of that 3 or 4 hours of TV watching and decided I'm going to spend 20 minutes every day writing a blog or teaching myself how to write web code or something like that. Even that small little thing of taking 20 minutes away from TV to do something, let's say you can write one blog post in 20 minutes. If you do that 5 days a week, that's 5 blog posts a week, times that by 52. What's that, 250? I don't know. It's a whole heck of a lot of blog posts. If you figure every blog post gets even 10 views, now multiply that by the number of, basically you can see how everything compounds and you drive all this traffic, and you can see how it's basically going to change your trajectory. Don't be like other people. The natural trajectory of society as a whole, and most people are mediocre. If you want to be mediocre, follow others. If you want to be extraordinary, blaze your own path and do your own thing. Let's see. Debt and materialistic things are not what wealth or happiness is. Everything you buy means you have to work more to afford that, which means more quote unquote indentured time. He talks about how free time is your free time to do what you want. Indentured time is the time you work. And when you think about indentured time, it's not just the 8 hours a day you're at the office. It's the half-hour commute each way it takes you to get into the office. It's the brushing your teeth and showering and putting on your suit. It's the taking your suit to the dry cleaners because you need something to wear to work. All of this is indentured time. And he talks about how everything has two expenses. The dollar cost, so if I buy something for $20, there's a cost of $20, but there's also the amount of time you have to work to make that money. So if I make $10 an hour and something costs $20, not only is it costing me $20, but it's also costing me 2 hours of free time. Now think about that when you buy stuff. Now when you're rich and you can go ahead and splurge and buy something because it doesn't affect your time or lifestyle, fine, go ahead. But if you don't have the ability to pay cash, and if you're going to notice that money missing, think long and hard about what you buy. Towards the end of the part of this section here, he talks about brick walls aren't meant to keep you down. They're meant to only allow the people through who really want it. Let's see, I really liked in the end of this part, he hits a lot of points I notice of many entrepreneurs. Many people use excuses like I don't know how or I don't have time. 99% of the questions that people ask me on blogs, YouTube, email are things that they could easily Google and find the answer to in 30 seconds, but they don't bother. They ask a question and wait for my response as opposed to going and finding the answer themselves very easily. Now, it's one thing if you try to Google an answer and run into a problem and need further assistance or clarification, but something like, hey, I live in Germany, can I sell on Amazon? That's something that you can very easily Google yourself. Now, if there's something weird in the answer you get, like, you can sell in Germany, but you need to do. Maybe someone's like, okay, well, I know I can sell on Amazon.de, but can I sell on Amazon.com? Now, that would be a good question to come back and ask me if something's not clear to you and you want clarification. But simply something like, I'm 17, can I open a PayPal account? Go Google something like that. I still answer these questions. I know a lot of, Alex Becker and a lot of other guys are like, if you ask me a stupid question, Becker's like, if you ask me some stupid shit that you can Google, I'm either going to ignore you or call you an idiot. I mean, I try to answer every question, but, if there's something that you can get answered in 30 seconds, save a better question to ask me. Go Google it yourself. You'll get an answer quicker. You can get started quicker, etc. Education does not end after high school or college. Education or skills do become stale. MJ DeMarco gives the example of the stockbroker who winds up working at a furniture store because his skill or his knowledge base has become kind of stale or outdated. You need to continually strive to educate yourself and update your skills, make yourself more valuable. I don't know how isn't an answer. Teach yourself how. MJ went to school for something completely different than computer science, but taught himself to program. I don't have time isn't an excuse. Notice how I make a lot of my YouTube videos in my car. If I didn't do that, I may tell myself, oh, I can't post a video this week. I don't have time. I make the time, and not only do I make the time by, turning downtime driving in my car into making a video, but I also killed two birds with one stone. I have to drive into my office every day, so why not take that 10, 15, 20 minutes to make a video, right? Kill two birds with one stone. Rather than wasting time in traffic or driving to work, I turn that time into something productive. Turn your drive, your workouts, wait at the dentist, toilet time. He went on quite a bit about toilet time. It's really not applicable for me, way too much TMI, but I'm kind of into the bathroom and out of the bathroom. I'm not somebody who sits there for hours, but whatever. If you are somebody who sits on the toilet a lot, use that time for something productive. Turn it into education and not waste of time. And this is another example. My girlfriend used to think I was kind of goofy, but when I go for a run, for example, I typically listen to self-help tapes, the $100 startup, the 4 hour work week, and will I get like listening to some like hip hop music or rock or something is going to pump you up a lot more than hearing somebody read a book on tape. It's all about using your time productively. So, basically, not that working out isn't a constructive use of your time. It's, good for your health, and being healthy is going to make you more productive, etc. But rather than having an hour out of your day that you spend running or working out or whatever, just kind of wasted on working out, you can also turn that into education time and kill two birds with one stone. I love how this chapter ends talking about interest versus intent. So I have a lot of people comment on my videos who are interested in being an entrepreneur, who are interested in getting into e-commerce, who want to dabble in it, dip their toe in it. I also have other people who are intent on it. And I can very quickly tell the difference between the people who are going to fizzle out or the people who are never going to get started, as opposed to the people who are motivated and are going to go somewhere. So the people who are intent don't talk about how motivated they are and how hard of a worker they are and how they're going to get started. They've already started. The people with intent don't spend 5 minutes setting up a store and then spend 6 hours looking for someone to hold their hand and walk them through it. They sit up till 3 a.m. in the morning watching YouTube videos, trying it over and over until they get it. So basically, you got to ask yourself, are you interested in becoming self-employed, an entrepreneur, wealthy, etc., or are you intent on it? Now, I can look back when I first got started in this stuff. I'm not going to say there were no resources online, but you didn't have like Reddits, you didn't have all these YouTube videos walking you through how to do every little thing. Like, I would maybe find some blog posts that told you how to make a header for a site or how to set up an email opt-in list or something like that. And there really wasn't a lot of places to turn for help. I mean, this is like back in the days of like Yahoo Answers and things like that. So I would literally I was literally like manic about it. I would sit up till 4 in the morning until I figured something out. And that's really how you need to be. And then one last thing I wanted to touch on is he talks about gurus and courses. He talks about people spending $50K on a real estate course, which has the same information that somebody could get out of a book at the library for free. People want others to hold their hand. People want others to walk them through something. As I said in my last video about the Amazon course, everything out there is free. I went on to say that if a course is reasonably priced and taught by somebody knowledgeable, and you feel it will cut down the learning curve and save you time, which time equals money, it may be worth it. MJ kind of says the same thing. He says if a course is outlandishly priced, it's probably not worth it. I give almost everything as far as knowledge about making money online, Amazon, e-commerce, online marketing. I give it almost all away for free via blog posts, YouTube videos, etc. Well, I do plan on rolling out some courses and stuff down the road for people who are looking for a little bit more hand-holding or information to be a little bit more organized. Basically, everything you would ever need to know to get started is on my YouTube channel. Sure, you may have to browse around a little bit, watch some videos, and kind of consolidate some of the information for yourself. But the same stuff other people are charging you $5,000 for, $2,500 for, $1,500 for, I'm giving away for free. Okay, guys, so that concludes part 1 of the Millionaire FastLane Book Club, part 6, week 6, etc. Now we're going to get into the chapter summary. I'll post in the description box below where you can read this if you want to read it for yourself. I'm kind of going to fly through this here because, like I said, everything's been covered. But let's just kind of breeze through this for those of you guys that want to hang on and go piece by piece through the chapter. So part 6, your vehicle to wealth. Chapter 22, own yourself first. Events and circumstances have their own origin in ourselves. They spring from seeds which we have sown. Henry David Thoreau. Or Thoreau, I think it is. The best business structures for your FastLane business are 1, C Corporation, 2, S Corporation, 3, Limited Liability Corporation. For small startups, MJ DeMarco recommends either an LLC or an S Corp. Stay away from partnerships and sole proprietorships as they do not limit liability. Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. Pay yourself first is fundamentally impossible in a job. So he talks about how if you work for somebody else, taxes are paid first. You get paid after your employer's bills are paid. If you want to pay yourself first, you have to be self-employed. You have to have a business. You have to be an entrepreneur. To own your vehicle, you start a corporation that formally divorces you from the act of business. Your corporation is the body of your surrogate. The recommended business FastLane entity is a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC. Chapter 23, Life Steering Wheel. Your life is a sum of all the choices you make, both consciously and unconsciously. If you can control the process of choosing, you can take control of all aspects of your life. You can find the freedom that comes from being in charge of yourself. Robert F. Bennett. Chapter 23, quotes and highlights. If you retrace poverty's footprint, you will find that poorness starts at the exact same place, choice. Poor choices are the leading cause of poorness. If you approach wealth like a big pharmaceutical company and attack symptoms while neglecting problems, you will not succeed. Feeling tired? Take this pill. Want to lose weight? Another pill. The problems are ignored while the symptoms are addressed in catatonic cycles. I refuse cholesterol medication because it addresses the symptom, not the problem. The problem is poor diet. Cholesterol is the symptom. You are exactly where you decide to be. And if that's unhappiness, you need to start making better choices. Youthful choices radiate the most strength and fabricate the trunk of your tree. As the branches ascend topside through time, they get thinner, weaker, and they don't have enough power to bend the tree in new directions because the trunk is thick with age. So it basically talks about how when you're young, it's a great time to kind of start enforcing new positive habits and things like that. It's going to affect your trajectory a lot more if you start doing something at 18 than if you start doing something at 48. He talks about his motorcycle crash. My motorcycle crash had a significant horsepower because I feel it today. If you are unmarried with 5 kids by the age of 23, where do you think the branches of your choice tree will lead? How thick and unbendable is your choice tree? If you skip classes and are drunk for 4 years in college, how will that ripple through your choice tree? If your best friend is a drug dealer, where will that lead you? Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. The leading cause of poorness is poor choices. The steering wheel of your life is your choices. You are exactly where you choose to be. Success is hundreds of choices that form a process. Process forms lifestyle. Choice is the most powerful control you have in your life. Treasonous choices forever impact your life negatively. Your choices have significant horsepower or trajectory into the future. The younger you are, the more potent your choices are, and therefore more horsepower you possess. Over time, horsepower erodes as the consequences of old choices are thick and hard to bend. Chapter 24, wipe your windshield clean. Until we see what we are, we cannot take steps to become what we should be. Charlotte P. Gilman. Chapter 24, quotes and highlights. Ever wrestle with a tough decision? One day you favor option A, and the next day you flounder back to option B. Wouldn't it be great if making a tough decision were as simple as picking the highest number? Help My Decision is a website which can help you do that. MJ DeMarco talks about it in that chapter. Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. Your choices of action manifest from your choices of perception. What you choose to perceive or not perceive will manifest itself in a choice of action or inaction. You can change your choice of perception by aligning yourself with those who experience the perception as reality. Worst case consequence analysis helps avoid treasonous choices. So he talks about how people are scared to fail. But if you think about it, just sit down and analyze, okay, if I try this and fail it, what is the worst thing that can possibly happen? And often the worst thing that can possibly happen really isn't that bad. The weighted average decision matrix can help you make better big decisions by clarifying alternatives and their internal factors. The universe has no memory, only you do. And I think this kind of goes back to self-fulfilling prophecies and things like that. Just because you failed in the past doesn't mean you'll fail in the future. Have a short memory, get that stuff out of your head, get out there and try again. Your past can be accelerative or treasonous. You choose the classification. If your eyes are transfixed to the past, you can't become the person you need to become in the future. Demoralize flatulent headwinds. Ridicule is a tribute paid to the genius by the mediocrities. Oscar Wilde. Chapter 25, quotes and highlights. Go into a kindergarten class and ask the kids how many of them can sing. Every hand will go up. Fast forward 13 years and ask the same class of seniors that same question. Only a few hands will go up. What changed? The kindergarten kids believed they could sing because nobody had told them otherwise. If you aren't mindful to this natural gravity, life can denigrate into a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle, which is society's prescription for normal. Get up, go to work, come home, eat, watch a few episodes of Law and Order, and go to bed. Then repeat, day after day after day. Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. The natural gravity of society is not to be exceptional, but average. Toxic relationships drain energy and detract from your goals to be extraordinary. The people in your life are like your comrades in a battle platoon. They can save you, help you, or destroy you. Good relationships are accelerative to your process, while bad relationships are treasonous. Chapter 26, your primordial fuel, time. Time isn't a commodity, something you pass around like cake. Time is the substance of life, and when anyone asks you to give your time, they're really asking for you to give a chunk of your life. Antoinette Bosco. Chapter 26, Quotes and Highlights. Show me someone who spends hours online playing Mafia Wars or Farmville, and I'll show you someone who probably isn't very successful. When life sucks, escapes are sought. I don't need television because I invested my time into a real life worth living, not a fictitious escape that airs Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Again, the majority of thinking yields mediocrity, and for that, the majority of time is an asset that is undervalued and mindlessly squandered. Fastlaners understand that time is the gas tank of life. When the gas tank runs dry, life ends. Time is the greatest asset you own. Not money, not the 1969 restored Mustang, not Grandpa's old coin collection. Time. The fact is, all of us are on a sinking ship. Is your time treated as such? Is it treated fairly or carelessly? Or is your primordial fuel squandered as if you think the tank will never run empty? Since you don't have 8,000 years to live, it isn't logical to conclude that money is an abundant resource while time is not. You can always acquire more money, but you cannot defy mortality. The irony of financial fortune is that no matter how much you have, you'll die flat broke. You can't escape the continual combustion of time as your tank drips time every second. You can live in a blissful happiness or a miserable depression. Time is indifferent, and it just bleeds away. Since time is scarce, wouldn't it make sense not to waste $3 of your life for a $6 bucket of chicken? And that's referring to, he talks about how I think it was KFC gave away a bucket of chicken, and literally there were like riots over it. People were like waiting in line all day for a $6 bucket of chicken, and he's basically saying, is that really how much you value your time? Less than $6 an hour? Next, we get into talking about indentured time. Indentured time is the opposite. It's the total spent earning money and the consequences of that time. When you wake up in the morning, shower, dress, drive to the train station, wait, ride to work, then work for 8 hours, this is indentured time. When you spend your entire weekend recharging from the work week, this is indentured time. Indentured time is actually work, and the work you must do for work. Morning rituals, traffic, compiling reports at home, solitary recharges, whatever time is spent earning a buck is indentured time. If you were born into slavery, your life would be 100% indentured time with 0% free time. Well, total time can't be manipulated. You can manipulate your time ratio. Wouldn't it be nice to have a day of indentured time and 6 days of free time? If you can steal free time from the hands of indentured time, life will have more of the right time versus the wrong time. Parasitic debt is everything you owe the world. It is the excrement of lifestyle servitude. Your shiny new Infinity financed at 60 monthly payments, your home mortgage financed over 30 years, your fancy designer clothes for 4 months removed from out of fashion, and yes, that insidious furniture that seemed like such a good idea at the time. The leading cause of indentured time is parasitic debt. Surely you've heard the phrase, thief of hearts. When it comes to parasitic debt, it is the thief of lives. Parasitic debt is a gluttonous pig that gorges on free time and shits it out as indentured time. Any debt that forces you to work is reclassified from free time and shifts to indentured time. Value your time poorly and you will be poor. When time is wasted as a lifestyle choice, you will be stranded in places you don't want to be. The inconvenient saver gladly wastes time to save money. Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. Fastlaners regard time as the king of all assets. Time is deathly scarce while money is abundantly rich. Indentured time is time you spend to earn money. Free time is time you spend as you please. Your lifespan is made up of both free time and indentured time. Free time is bought and paid for by indentured time. Fastlaners seek to transform indentured time into free time. Parasitic debt eats free time and excretes it as indentured time. Lifestyle extravagances have two costs, the cost of the item itself and the cost of free time. Parasitic debt has to be stopped at the source, instant gratification. Chapter 27, that dirty, stale oil. Education is what remains after one has forgotten everything he learned in school. Albert Einstein. Chapter 27, quotes and highlights. Expansion of his knowledge to facilitate a FastLane system, I voted yes. You don't know because you haven't taught yourself how, nor have you wanted to know how badly enough. I saw a picture the other day of a student publicly protesting at one of the government financial bailouts. She hoisted a large placard that read, I've got a 4.0 GPA, 90,000 in debt and no job. Where's my bailout? Where's my bailout? Let me tell you. Walk into the bathroom, flip on the light switch, and look in the freaking mirror. We producers know people are lazy. People want it handed to them. People don't want to read and connect the dots. They want it done for them. People want to be steered. They want someone to drive their vehicle. People want events, not process. So this I found to be really key. Everybody who's looking for a course, and I'm not saying courses have no value. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to find a mentor. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to shortcut your learning process. But at some point, you have to do things yourself. And that's the reason that the guru industry, the make money online industry, is so large and so profitable for a lot of people, because even though all this information's out there for free, people are willing to pay to have somebody connect the dots. And most of the good internet marketers in the make money niche try to make things seem easy. Now, I don't consider myself a guru. I don't really consider myself to be a part of that. Why? Because I give pretty much 99% of everything away for free. And secondly, because I don't try to sugarcoat things and make things sound easy. I'm going to say most of you are going to fail. I'm going to say most of you are going to give up. Where somebody who wants to sell you a course on how to make $5,000 a day completely passively is going to try to make it really easy for you. Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. Fastlaners start their education at graduation, if not before. A Fastlaner's education serves to advance their business system and their money tree, not to raise intrinsic value. Fastlaners aren't interested in being a cog in a wheel. They want to be the wheel. I don't know how is an excuse dismantled by discipline. Infinite knowledge is everywhere and it's free. What's missing is discipline to assimilate it. You can become an expert in any discipline not requiring physical skills. Education recharges can occur within time blocks already allocated for other objectives. That's how he talks about, make the use of your time in the car, waiting at the doctor's office, sitting on a toilet. Organizers of expensive seminars take advantage of sidewalkers and are disenfranchised slow laners by marketing empty promises as events. So that's what I talked about a minute ago when I said people are looking for a course that makes things sound easy because people don't want to put in the hard work. Chapter 28, hit the red line. If things seem under control, you are just not going fast enough. Mario Andretti. Chapter 28, quotes and highlights. The brick walls are there for a reason. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls there are to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. The brick walls are there to stop the people who don't want it badly. They are there to stop the other people. So you don't want to be one of the other people. You want to be damn sure you aren't the other people, because other people is synonymous with most people. Most people are consumers who are 2 paychecks from broke. Most people won't invest long hours into their business system while friends are living up on credit. Most people will allow friends and family to deflate their dreams with "that won't work" directives. Most people start excited and gush with exuberance, but give up at the first pothole or failure. Most people will succumb to the "I quit" and give up, not knowing that they are 2 plays away from a touchdown, the FastLane exponential growth curve. Questioning, commitment, and rebirth. FastLane requires an investment toll, time and effort. This is a toll that makes you special and keeps everyone else out. This red line effort cannot be bypassed nor outsourced. I talked the other day about how you can't buy success. You can't pay somebody $50 to give you a business system that's going to make you $5,000 a week. You have to put in this work yourself, and you have to figure things out yourself. Prime your expectations for work and sacrifice. Know your destination, envision your dreams, ready your means, and know that you are simply paying the toll because you don't want to trade 5 for 2 for life. If you don't do the hard work that the FastLane opportunity demands, someone else will. And if you aren't like everyone, you will discover something miraculous. You can live unlike anyone. The sweat of success is failure. I am soaking wet in it. If you've taken a step spin an aerobics class, you know the objectives: to sweat, to get your heart rate up, to build cardiovascular endurance, and to lose weight. If you went to a cardio class and the instructor forbade sweating, it would negate its purpose. Hard work naturally produces sweat, and sweat becomes evidence of your effort. Unfortunately, this ludicrous analogy is a paradox you face if you fear failure and refuse to release the brakes. The sweat of success is failure. Well, you can't build cardiovascular endurance without sweating. You can't experience success without failure. Failure is simply a natural response to success. If you avoid failure, you will also avoid success. Chapter summary, FastLane distinctions. Interest is first gear. Commitment is the red line. Hard work and commitment separates the winners from the losers. Some choose short-term mediocre comfort over long-term meteoric comfort. To live unlike anyone else, you have to do what nobody else will do. That kind of goes along with that old entrepreneurial quote about entrepreneurs are willing to sacrifice a few years of their life. Willing to live a few years of their life like most won't, so that they can live the rest of their life like most can't. Arm your expectations to hard work, sacrifice, and other bumps in the road. These are the landmines of where the weak are removed from the road and sent back to the land of most people. And that's kind of an interesting story to tie in. I mean, all along being an entrepreneur, you run into stumbling blocks, failures, etc. within 6 months of me quitting my job to be a full-time entrepreneur and focus on my business, my payment processor wound up getting shut down. Now, I happen to be in an industry where payment processing or finding payment processing is very challenging. It literally took me 3 to 4 months and contacting over 300 different payment processors to find a credit card processor who would, board my business, as they say. I have a feeling most people would have given up after a couple days or after the first 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 rejections. And even my business partner said, we're never going to get credit cards again. And I was unwilling to accept that as a future because basically that would have sunk my business. So I continued calling a couple hundred more and I got my processing back up and running. And knock on wood, it's been running to this day. But I mean, that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. Failure is natural to success. Expect it and learn from it. One home run could set you financially secure for your life, perhaps generations. Home runs can't be hit in a dugout. Moronic risks have unlimited downside long term and limited upside short term. Intelligent risks have unlimited upside long term and limited downside short term. There is never perfect timing, and waiting for someday just wastes time. So I've talked about that a lot before. Take action, get something going. Someday is never going to happen. Someday isn't a day of the week. Make someday today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I apologize, I kind of ran through the end of this video as I want to get this posted. Apologize for not getting it up in time. This was my favorite chapter thus far. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about it. Drop a comment in the description box below. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff if you like the video. And stay tuned, guys. We got a lot of great stuff coming out this week, and I will catch you guys on the next one.